Most people think the nervous system is something mysterious. They imagine it as a complicated medical concept that only scientists understand. But after more than 70 years studying medicine and psychology, I've learned something simple. Your nervous system behaves a lot like a quiet electrical network inside your body. If you overload it with stress, bad habits, and constant stimulation, the wires start to wear down. But if you protect it, calm it, and care for it daily, the body can stay balanced far longer than most people expect. My name is Dr. Harold Whitman. I'm 96 years old, and I spent most of my life working as both a medical doctor and a professor of psychology. Over the decades, I treated thousands of patients, businessmen with constant stress, young people with anxiety, elderly patients whose bodies had slowly collapsed under years of unhealthy habits. And through all those years of observation, research, and conversations with people from every walk of life, I discovered something interesting. The people who aged the best didn't necessarily have perfect genetics. They simply protected their nervous system. You see, the nervous system controls almost everything: your sleep, your digestion, your heart rhythm, your hormones, your ability to think clearly. And when that system becomes constantly overstimulated or exhausted, the body begins to decline faster. Today, many people unknowingly damage their nervous systems every single day. Too much stress, too much noise, too much information, too little rest. But the solution is not complicated. In fact, there are 3 small practices that I have personally followed for most of my life. 3 simple actions you can do every day, and I recommend doing them 3 times a day: morning, afternoon, evening. These habits protect the nervous system the way maintenance protects an engine. They calm the body, they reset the mind, and they prevent the slow accumulation of stress that leads to aging, disease, and harmful habits. I'm not saying they will make someone live to 96 like I have, but I will say this: every patient who adopted these habits consistently showed remarkable improvements in their health and mental clarity. The first practice is something most people believe they already know how to do, but almost everyone does it incorrectly. It's something you've been doing since the moment you were born, and it may be the most powerful tool your nervous system has for protecting itself. The first practice I teach my patients is something so simple that most people overlook it: breathing. Now you may be thinking, "Doctor, I breathe all day long without thinking about it." And that is exactly the problem. Most people breathe in a way that keeps their nervous system slightly tense all the time. Shallow breathing, fast breathing. Breathing only in the upper chest. When the body breathes this way for years, the nervous system receives a constant signal that something might be wrong. It stays slightly alert, slightly defensive. Your heart beats a little faster. Your muscles stay slightly tight. Your mind becomes more restless. Over time, this constant low-level tension slowly drains the body. I began noticing this pattern many years ago while working with patients who struggled with anxiety and chronic stress. Their breathing patterns were almost identical: short, shallow breaths, minimal movement in the diaphragm. Their bodies were behaving as if danger was always nearby. But the nervous system has a remarkable feature. It responds almost immediately to slow, controlled breathing. When you breathe slowly through the nose and allow the diaphragm to expand, a nerve called the vagus nerve becomes activated. This nerve is one of the most important regulators of the nervous system. It tells the body something very important: you are safe. When the vagus nerve activates, the heart rate slows, blood pressure decreases, muscles relax, the mind becomes clearer. This is why the first habit I recommend doing 3 times a day is a simple breathing reset. In the morning, before checking your phone or starting work. In the middle of the day, when your mind begins to feel scattered. And again in the evening, when the body needs to prepare for rest. The method is very simple. Sit comfortably. Breathe slowly through your nose for about 4 seconds. Allow the belly to expand gently as the diaphragm moves downward. Then exhale slowly for about 6 seconds. Do not force the breath. Just allow it to move smoothly. 5 minutes is enough. 10 minutes is even better. When practiced regularly, this kind of breathing trains the nervous system to shift from constant tension into a state of calm regulation. I personally practiced this habit during my years working in hospitals and universities. Medicine can be a stressful profession. Long hours, difficult cases, constant decision-making. But those small breathing breaks helped protect my nervous system from burnout. And the interesting thing is that patients who adopted this habit often reported improvements in many areas of their health. Better sleep, improved digestion, reduced anxiety, clearer thinking, all from something as simple as breathing correctly. But breathing alone is not enough. The second practice I recommend doing 3 times a day involves something modern life has almost completely taken away from us. It's something the human brain evolved with for thousands of years. Yet today, many people spend entire days without experiencing it even once. The second practice that protects the nervous system is something modern life has quietly stolen from us. Periods of real mental quiet. Not sleep, not scrolling through a phone, not watching television. I mean moments where the brain is allowed to rest from stimulation. When I began teaching psychology in the 1960s, we still lived in a much quieter world. People spent time walking, reading, sitting on porches, or simply thinking without constant noise around them. But over the last few decades, I began noticing something concerning among my patients and students. Their minds were never truly resting. From the moment they woke up, they were exposed to stimulation. News, television, telephones, later computers, and now the constant stream of information from smartphones. The nervous system was never given a chance to settle. And when the brain remains continuously stimulated, something important happens. The nervous system stays in a state psychologists call chronic activation. Even if you are physically sitting still, the brain behaves as if it must constantly process information. Over time, this leads to mental fatigue, irritability, poor concentration, and eventually burnout. I once had a patient in his 40s who came to me complaining about exhaustion and anxiety. He worked in finance, and he told me something that surprised him when we examined his daily routine. From the moment he woke up until the moment he fell asleep, he had some form of information entering his mind. Podcasts while getting ready, news while eating breakfast, emails during work, music during exercise, television during dinner, phone scrolling before bed. There was not a single moment in his entire day where his brain experienced silence. When we introduced small periods of intentional quiet into his routine, something interesting happened. Within weeks, he reported feeling calmer, sleeping better, and thinking more clearly. That is why the second practice I recommend doing 3 times a day is something very simple. Take 5 to 10 minutes of quiet mental space. No phone, no music, no screens. Just sit, walk slowly, or look out a window. Allow the mind to slow down naturally. You do not need to force thoughts away. The goal is simply to remove stimulation so the nervous system can return to balance. I personally practiced this habit throughout my career. During long hospital shifts, I would sometimes step outside for a few minutes between patients. No conversations, no paperwork, just fresh air and quiet. Those moments reset the nervous system more effectively than most people realize. The brain is not designed to process constant stimulation without rest. Just as muscles need recovery after exercise, the nervous system needs periods of mental stillness. But even breathing and mental quiet are not enough by themselves. The third practice I recommend doing 3 times a day may be the most overlooked habit of all, and it involves something the body has depended on since the beginning of human history: physical movement. The third practice that protects the nervous system is something the human body was designed for from the very beginning: movement, not extreme exercise, not exhausting workouts. Simply moving the body regularly throughout the day. When I studied medicine, one of the things that fascinated me most was how deeply connected the nervous system is to physical movement. Every time you move your body, thousands of signals travel between your brain, spinal cord, and muscles. These signals do more than control motion. They regulate mood, circulation, hormone balance, and even how clearly the brain can think. But modern life has created a strange situation. Many people spend most of their day sitting at desks, sitting in cars, sitting on couches. The nervous system was never designed for such long periods of stillness. When the body remains inactive for hours, blood circulation slows, muscles tighten. The brain receives fewer stimulating signals from the body. Over time, this can lead to fatigue, poor concentration, irritability, and physical discomfort. I began noticing this pattern decades ago while treating patients with chronic stress and nervous exhaustion. Many of them believed their problems were purely psychological. But when we examined their daily habits, something simple appeared. They barely moved. One patient in particular stays in my memory. He was a university professor who spent nearly 10 hours a day sitting in his office writing and reading research papers. He complained of headaches, nervous tension, and difficulty sleeping. Instead of prescribing medication immediately, I suggested something simple. Every few hours, stand up and move. Walk around the building, stretch the shoulders, take 10 slow steps outside. At first, he thought this advice sounded too simple to be useful, but within a month he returned and told me something surprising. His headaches had almost disappeared. His sleep had improved. His mood felt more stable. Movement had reset the rhythm of his nervous system. That is why the third practice I recommend doing 3 times a day is a short period of gentle movement. It does not need to be complicated. A 10-minute walk, light stretching, slow movements of the shoulders, neck, and spine. What matters is that the body reminds the nervous system that it is alive and active. Even now, at 96, I continue this habit every day. In the morning, I take a slow walk outside. In the afternoon, I stretch my back and shoulders. In the evening, I walk again, even if only for a few minutes. These small moments of movement keep the body connected to the nervous system in a healthy way. But something important happens when you combine all 3 of these habits together: breathing, quiet mental space, and gentle movement. They create a daily reset for the nervous system. And over the years, I have watched these simple practices protect people from many of the harmful habits that slowly damage both mind and body. But there is another important truth most people do not realize. Bad habits themselves often begin when the nervous system becomes exhausted and unbalanced. Over the years, I noticed something important while working with patients who struggled with bad habits: smoking, excessive drinking, overeating, constant phone use. People often believe these habits come from weakness or lack of discipline. But after decades studying psychology and the nervous system, I discovered something else. Many bad habits begin when the nervous system becomes overwhelmed. When the brain is stressed for long periods of time, It looks for quick ways to calm itself. Nicotine can temporarily relax the nervous system. Alcohol can dull emotional tension. Sugar can stimulate pleasure centers in the brain. Even endless scrolling on a phone can distract the mind from anxiety. These behaviors are not random. They are attempts by the brain to regulate an exhausted nervous system. The problem is that most of these habits provide only temporary relief. The calm feeling fades quickly. Then the nervous system becomes even more unstable. And the cycle repeats. This is why I always tell my patients something very important. If you want to eliminate harmful habits, the first step is not fighting the habit itself. The first step is supporting the nervous system. When the nervous system becomes calm, stable, and well-regulated, the need for those habits often fades naturally. I saw this many times during my career. One man came to my clinic in his 50s trying to stop smoking. He had attempted to quit several times, but always returned to the habit during stressful periods. Instead of focusing only on the cigarettes, we focused on his nervous system. He began practicing the 3 daily habits we discussed: slow breathing, quiet mental breaks, regular movement, mental. Within 2 months, he noticed something surprising. His cravings became weaker. The urge to smoke during stressful moments was less intense. His body had found healthier ways to regulate stress. That is why these small practices are so powerful. They strengthen the nervous system's natural ability to maintain balance. And when balance returns, the brain stops searching for harmful shortcuts. But there is another benefit that becomes visible over time. People who maintain a calm, stable nervous system often age differently. Their thinking remains clearer. Their sleep remains deeper. Their bodies recover faster from stress. And their emotional reactions become more balanced. This does not mean they avoid difficulties. Everyone experiences stress, loss, and uncertainty during life. But a strong nervous system helps the body recover instead of breaking down. In many ways, protecting your nervous system is one of the most important forms of preventive medicine. And that is something I wish more people understood much earlier in life. But there is another small detail I often share with my patients. Because even these 3 habits work best when they are supported by something deeper. Something that many people forget once they become adults. It is the ability to slow down your pace of life. One of the quiet lessons I learned after many decades studying people is that the pace of life has a powerful effect on the nervous system. When I was a young doctor, the world moved more slowly. Letters arrived by mail. News came once or twice a day. People had conversations without constantly checking a screen. Today, the pace of life is very different. Information moves faster than the human brain evolved to handle. Messages arrive instantly. Phones vibrate constantly. Many people feel they must react to everything immediately. The nervous system experiences this as continuous urgency. And urgency keeps the body in a state of tension. I began noticing this pattern especially during the last 20 years of my career. Younger patients often described a feeling of mental exhaustion even when they were not physically tired. When we looked closely at their daily routines, the cause often became clear. They rarely allowed themselves to slow down. Even when resting, they were still mentally active, checking messages, watching videos, reading news. Their nervous system never received the signal that it was safe to relax. That is why I often add one more recommendation to the 3 daily practices we discussed. Learn to slow the rhythm of your day. This does not mean abandoning your responsibilities. It means introducing small moments where you intentionally move, speak, and think more slowly. For example, when you walk outside, do not rush. Allow your steps to settle into a steady rhythm. When you eat, try placing the phone away from the table and tasting the food carefully. When speaking with another person, Focus on the conversation rather than the next task waiting for you. These small changes send a powerful signal to the nervous system. They communicate that the environment is safe and stable. Over time, the body begins to adapt to this calmer rhythm. Heart rate stabilizes. Breathing becomes deeper. Sleep improves. In psychology, we sometimes describe this as retraining the nervous system. You are teaching the body that it does not need to remain in constant alert mode. I practiced this principle throughout my life without realizing it fully at the time. During my years as a professor, I made a habit of walking slowly across campus between lectures instead of rushing from building to building. Those walks were quiet moments of transition. My mind would settle, my breathing would deepen, and my nervous system would reset before the next class. Looking back now, I believe those small pauses protected me from the kind of chronic stress that shortens many careers in medicine. And as I grew older, I noticed something interesting. People who maintained a slower, more deliberate pace of life often aged more gracefully. Their minds remained clearer. Their emotions remained steadier. Their bodies seemed less worn down by stress. The nervous system thrives on rhythm and stability. But there is one more important lesson I learned during my long career. Even the healthiest nervous system cannot remain balanced without one essential element that many people overlook. It is something deeply human, something that has nothing to do with medicine or biology alone. It is the presence of meaning and connection in life. During my many years practicing medicine and psychology, I eventually realized something that no medical textbook explains very well. The nervous system does not thrive on biology alone. It also depends on meaning. People who feel that their lives have purpose tend to maintain stronger mental and physical health. This is something I observed repeatedly across decades of clinical work. Two patients could have similar lifestyles, similar diets, even similar medical conditions. Yet one of them remained mentally resilient while the other slowly declined. Often the difference was not physical. It was psychological and emotional. The person who remained healthier usually had something important in their life that gave them a sense of direction, a reason to wake up in the morning. It might be family, a profession they cared deeply about, volunteering, teaching, creating something meaningful. The nervous system responds strongly to this sense of purpose. When the brain perceives life as meaningful, the body regulates stress more effectively. Hormones balance more easily, sleep becomes deeper, and emotional resilience increases. On the other hand, when people feel disconnected from meaning, the nervous system can become vulnerable. Stress feels heavier. Fatigue arrives more quickly. Negative habits become harder to resist. One patient I remember clearly was a retired engineer in his 70s. When he first came to see me, he complained about fatigue, poor sleep, and growing anxiety. His medical tests were surprisingly normal. But during our conversation, something became clear. After retiring, he had gradually lost the sense of purpose that had structured his life for decades. Days became empty. Without realizing it, his nervous system lost the rhythm that had once supported it. Instead of prescribing medication immediately, I encouraged him to reconnect with something meaningful. He eventually began volunteering at a small community workshop where young students learned mechanical skills. Within months, his mood improved, his sleep stabilized, and his anxiety decreased. His nervous system had regained direction. This is why I always remind people that protecting your nervous system involves more than physical practices. Breathing helps calm the body. Mental quiet allows the brain to recover. Movement maintains physical balance. But purpose gives the nervous system a reason to remain strong. Even now, at 96 years old, I continue to maintain small daily routines that give my days meaning. Reading medical literature, writing notes for younger students who still visit me to ask questions, walking in the morning while reflecting on the long path medicine has taken over the past century. Purpose does not need to be grand or dramatic. Sometimes it is simply the act of continuing to contribute something small to the world around you. And that quiet sense of meaning protects the nervous system in ways that science is still learning to fully explain. But there is one final truth I learned after nearly a century of life. And it is something that ties together everything we have discussed about the nervous system, health, and aging. The body thrives when life is lived in balance. After nearly a century of life, I have come to believe that the human body does not fail suddenly. It usually declines slowly through years of imbalance. Too much stress, too little rest, too much stimulation, too little quiet, too many harmful habits, too little care for the nervous system that regulates everything else. When I look back at my career in medicine and psychology, I see thousands of different stories. Different patients, different problems, different lives. But the pattern was often the same. The people who protected their nervous system tended to age more gently. Their minds stayed clearer. Their emotions stayed steadier. Their bodies recovered more easily from the difficulties that come with aging. And the way they protected that system was rarely complicated. It came from small daily habits practiced consistently, breathing slowly and deeply to calm the body, allowing the mind moments of quiet without constant stimulation, moving the body regularly so the brain and muscles remain connected, slowing the pace of life enough to let the nervous system feel safe, maintaining purpose and meaningful connections with others. None of these habits require special equipment. None of them require expensive treatments. They simply require attention. Attention to how we treat our minds and bodies throughout the day. That is why I encourage people to practice the 3 daily resets we discussed. Morning, afternoon, evening. Pause. Breathe slowly. Step away from stimulation for a few minutes. Move your body gently. These small practices help restore balance to the nervous system before stress has time to accumulate. Over years and decades, that balance becomes one of the strongest protections against many of the problems associated with aging. I cannot promise that anyone who follows these habits will live to 96 as I have. Life always contains uncertainty. But I can say with confidence that a calm and well-regulated nervous system gives the body its best chance to remain healthy for as long as possible. Even now, as I approach the end of my own long life, I continue these practices every day. In the morning, I sit quietly and breathe before beginning the day. In the afternoon, I take a slow walk outside. In the evening, I allow my mind to rest in silence before sleep. These small moments of balance have accompanied me through decades of medicine, teaching, research, and personal life, and they continue to support my health even now. So if there is one message I would leave for the next generation, it is this: protect your nervous system the way you would protect something precious, because in many ways it is the foundation of both your health and your peace of mind.